understand capitalism, to step back, as key to capitalism is that it commodifies life. And to break that down a little bit, it takes things that we make, that we imagine, everything we desire, everything we would want the world that's our world, and it takes it away from us, and it makes it into something that we think is out of our control. Things that we could use or value become things that we have to exchange things for. And so in a way, capitalism removes the world from us. It alienates us from, or estranges us. I really like that way of understanding capitalism. It estranges us from the world that really is of our own making. And more it's doing that to more and more things, not just our bodies in terms of wage labor, because increasingly capitalism actually might be moving toward a phase where it needs less and less wage labor. So Marxists and anarchists have understood capitalism as a form of just simply wage labor. We may actually move toward a capitalism that increasingly has less of that, but it does things like it commodifies things like the air, which isn't even an actual thing, and sells us back carbon credits when it's actually, we're talking about whether we want to live in an ecological world. But it devastates also how we think about sex and sexuality and our bodies and our genders, and how we think about notions of beauty and what we desire. So capitalism in a way destroys so much of us. So right now what I think is the kind of key conditions that we're facing that are so brutal is people have far from what they need, and far from what they want, and far from what they desire. And so whether you're materially deprived or psychically deprived, we're all basically deprived under capitalism. And some of Marx's brilliance, which I still think is brilliant, is that he understood capitalism as something that ultimately damages and destroys everyone within it as a system, and I really believe that. It isn't that there's some people that are outside of that. Some people certainly benefit from it materially, a lot more than other people. And there's more extremes in wealth right now, probably than any time in human history, but it still destroys everyone. So for one reason right now, I think what we're fighting is to begin to provide people what they need to sustain themselves and also to thrive, to survive and to thrive, both. Which is why it makes me an anarchist or a libertarian socialist versus a non-libertarian socialist, because I feel like people should have what they need and what they desire to. And so that seems like one of the key problematics right now, is so much of the world is being removed from people. People can barely sustain themselves, much less begin to thrive and become who they want to be. And more people are just humanly completely eviscerated and suffering right now. So that's one thing we face. At the same time, I think capitalism has become increasingly able to mask how that works. So increasingly, capitalism looks very decentralized or hidden or small scale, and in a way, where the sources of power are, I think, are increasingly consolidated, but increasingly they're hidden. So it's more of a conundrum to figure out how, in what looks like a networked, interconnected, decentralized world, where power lies and where we need to start dismantling capitalism. Where do you throw people used to talk about throwing a wooden shoe into the factory gears, to stop production, but where do we stop and how do we dismantle capitalism now is a really perplexing question. And so for one is trying to even figure out where do we begin to step in to dismantle capitalism. Is it around reclaiming our social relationships to each other, which are completely destroyed, community, a sense of solidarity, all the things that are destroyed.